is Vishnu, and I'll be teaching the Junior Advanced session for Agora Math Circle. Welcome to Session 1. This session is about the order of operations. There are 6 major topics that we'll be covering today. Real numbers, multiplying and dividing by 0, properties of addition, properties of multiplication, distributive property, and order of operations. Now, 1.1, real numbers. There are 8 major kinds of numbers that you will need to know in this class. The first one being natural numbers. Natural numbers are basically all of your counting numbers. That's also why they're called counting numbers. You count with them every day. They include 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and on. Whole numbers. Whole numbers are basically the same thing as natural numbers, but all you have to do is add 0 to the list. 0, 1, 2, 3, and onward. Odd and even. You probably already know these ones, but I'm just going to go over it. Odd is basically any number that is not divisible by 2. 1, 3, 5, and 7 are examples. Even are numbers that are divisible by 2. 2, 4, 6, and 8. Most notably, 0 is also divisible by 2. Is even. Many people do leave that out. Next, negative. So negative is basically a natural number, but all you have to do is add a negative sign or a minus sign in front of it, making it negative. So the negative version of 5 becomes negative 5 when you add the minus sign in front of it. Negative 5, negative 4, negative 3, and onward. Now, integers. Integers are the combination of negative and whole numbers. As you can see, I used the example for negative in here, so negative 5, 4, and 3. Then also the example for whole numbers, 0, 1, 2, and 3. When you combine these two, negative and whole numbers, together makes integers. Now, rational numbers. This is practically the biggest encompassing group that you can create. Rational numbers are numbers that are shown as fractions or can be shown as fractions. Examples being 1/2 and 3/4. Now, its counterpart, irrational numbers, cannot be shown as fractions. For example, pi, which is 3.1415 and onward infinitely, which means it can be shown as a fraction. Now, there's a reason why I put it in purple, and that is because you will most likely not see very many irrational numbers in your class. 1.2, multiplying and dividing by 0. So there's 3 major cases that happen when you do multiplying or dividing by 0. 0 times any number n equals 0. So no matter what you multiply by 0, it's still 0. Now, we'll also in 1.4 see that n times 0 is the same thing as 0 times n, and therefore that is also 0. So no matter what you multiply by 0, it will always be 0. Always true. Next, for division, if you do 0 divided by any number n, it is still 0. 0 divided by 100 is still 0. 0 divided by 200, still 0. No matter what, still 0. Now, the last case is what happens when you take a number and divide it by 0. As shown here, any number n divided by 0 is always undefined. 100 divided by 0 is always undefined. 1.3, properties of addition. There are 4 major properties of addition that you need to know for this class. They are the commutative property, the associative property, the identity property, and the inverse property. Let's start with the commutative property. The commutative property states that you can add the numbers in any order that you want. Emphasis on the word add. You may only add the numbers in any order that you want. 3 plus 2 is the same as 2 plus 3. They both equal 5. You can add the numbers in any order that you want. This also applies to more than 2 numbers. Here we have 3 numbers, 1 plus 2 plus 3, plus 1 plus 3 plus 2 equals 3 plus 2 plus 1. All of them are 6. The associative property states that you can associate the numbers in any order that you want, and you will still get the same answer. Right here we have associated 1 and 2, which is 3. You do this first. Plus 3 equals 6. Likewise, on the other side, we've associated 2 and 3, therefore you do 2 and 3 first because they're in the parentheses. 2 plus 3 equals 5, plus 1 is 6. Either way, the answer is still 6. The identity property states that if you add 0 to any number, the answer is still the same number. 0 plus n equals n. Finally, the inverse property. The inverse property states that if you take a number and you add it to its inverse, you get 0. The definition of inverse here is the opposite of the original number. By opposite, I mean the negative. So if we have 4 here, if we put a minus sign in front of it, it becomes negative 4, and therefore when you add 4 to negative 4, you get 0. If you see here, I've added all the algebraic forms of each one of the properties. That's probably the easiest way to remember all of them. Right here is a practice from the lecture notes that were given to you. I recommend that you do these on your own, and if you have trouble or need the answer, please look at this. So, number 1, 6 plus 7 plus 8 equals 8 plus 7 plus 6. This clearly shows the commutative property, because we've changed the order of the numbers, yet the answer is still the same. Number 2, open parentheses, 28 plus 9, close parentheses, plus 10 equals 28 plus open parentheses, 9 plus 10, close parentheses. This clearly shows the associative property because first it has parentheses, therefore in the same format as this, but also we are associating the numbers in different ways, allowing us to still get the same answer. 1.4, properties of multiplication. Once again, there are 4 major properties for multiplication. There's the commutative, associative, identity, and inverse. The commutative and the associative are practically the same as the ones for addition. The only difference being you change the addition sign for a multiplication sign. The commutative, a times b is the same thing as b times a. Therefore, 1 times 2 is the same thing as 2 times 1. The order does not matter. You can multiply in any order that you want. The associative property, a times b in parentheses times c equals a times b times c in parentheses over here. So the way in which you associate the numbers does not matter. You can do a times b first or b times c first. Regardless, you will still get the same answer. The example above shows that 1 times 2 is still 2, times 3 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6, times 1 is 6, therefore both sides still are 6. The identity property, any number n times 1 is still n. Therefore, 2 times 1 is still 2. No matter what number is in the n spot, if you multiply it by 1, it will still be the same number. Now the inverse property, in the inverse property, the inverse of a number times the number equals 1. Now here the definition of inverse is slightly different compared to the properties for addition. In the properties for addition, we saw that the negative of the number is its inverse, but here it's its reciprocal. By reciprocal, I mean you take the original number and you flip what's on the top with what's on the bottom of the fraction. That becomes the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of 3 over 4 is 4 over 3. And when you multiply them together, you get 1. A over b, the original fraction, times its reciprocal. When you flip around, b becomes the top and a becomes the bottom. B over a is 1, no matter what. 1.5, distributive property. So the distributive property states that if you have a number times a quantity, or therefore in parentheses, an addition or subtraction, you can take the outside number and multiply it by each one of the numbers inside the parentheses. Therefore, it becoming a times b plus a times c. Now we see this in real application up here. We have 2 times the quantity, and by that times the quantity I mean the numbers inside the parentheses. 2 times 3, written here, 2 times 4, written here. And with this, we can find the answer. As you see, there's a practice problem given in the section. I kind of wrote the answers here, but if you could try these on your own before looking at the video, that might help you more than looking at the video directly. But 5 times the quantity 7 plus 4. What we can do here is we can take the 5 and multiply it by the 7, 5 times 7 being 35. 5 times 4, 5 times 4 is 20. 35 plus 20 is 55. Likewise here, this is a slightly larger problem. 3 times 4 is 12, 3 times 5 is 15, and 3 times 6, as you can see I wrote in all the arrows, is 18. When you add all of those together, you get 45. 1.6, order of operations. So the key to order of operations is this acronym right here, PEMDAS. Some people say, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, which is a much longer way to say the same thing. But what this acronym means is written right here. PEMDAS, parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. This is the order in which you go about every equation. You first calculate the parentheses, then the exponents, whichever comes first of these, and whichever comes first of these. One of the examples given in the lecture notes is right here. 4 times 3 minus 5. It's rather simple. You just go from left to right. You go through the order. Parentheses, no parentheses. Exponents, no exponents. Multiplication or division? Well, there is a multiplication, so it becomes 12. Next, we go through the order again. No parentheses, no exponents, no multiplication or division, but there is subtraction, so you do just that, and you get 7. Now, the second one is much longer. So you first go through the list. Are there any parentheses? Yes, there's a parentheses right here. 4 plus 1 becomes 5. You're on step 2. Next, you've taken out all the parentheses, so you go next on the list. Exponents. There's one exponent right here. 10 to the power 2. 10 to the power 2 becomes 100. So now you're on step 3. You've exhausted all of the parentheses and exponents. So next you go into multiplication or division. Now, there's a reason why there's an arrow right here between multiplication and division and addition and subtraction. What that means is when you encounter both multiplication or division, no single mathematical operation takes over. What I'm trying to say here, I'm going to put it in simple words, is if you get both of them, whichever one is on the leftmost side, you do first. So we're on this step right here, and there is multiplication. So you do the multiplication first. If there were division, you would do it after if it were on the right side, but if it were in front of the multiplication, you would do that first. But yes, you do the multiplication. 2 times 100 is 200. Next, you're down to just the addition and subtraction. This is where what I was talking about comes in handy. Addition does not take dominance over subtraction, so whichever one comes first in the left to right reading order is what you do first. So first comes subtraction. So you do subtraction here, you get 9. The next on the list is addition. So 9 plus 200 is 209. Then next on the list is addition. 214 minus 2 gives your final answer of 212. After this, there are a couple of practice problems that you can do. I believe there are 3 of them. Once you guys are done, you can leave them in the comments below, and I will check to make sure that they're correct. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. Please do subscribe for more videos like this, and thank you.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. If you have any questions, you can email info@agoramathcircle.org or comment below and we'll reply back. Maybe. And if you want to see practice things or anything about us, you can visit our website, which is basically the end of the email but without the info and the end. So bye!